This is a video by Richmond. Today we're working on a Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 6-cylinder engine. Now this is very common on these 6-cylinder engines. It has an exhaust leak on the exhaust manifold. Now in this particular one, right here where the collector is, you can see the crack right here. This is where the exhaust is leaking out. And I've seen them leak right here too. Crack on the exhaust manifold. So we're going to change it out. Normally I would have started from the beginning, but I apologize. I'm starting in the middle of this project, and we're going to put on the exhaust manifold and go backwards, and hopefully this will help somebody out. Now once you've got the intake manifold off, the next thing you need to do is remove these two bolts down at the collector right here. They're 14 millimeter head, one right here and then one under the connector right here, and we need to remove those now. Now after you remove the bolts on the bottom, there is one right here on the end, one right in the middle, and one over on this end. Remove those next. Now we're almost ready to take the exhaust manifold off the engine. Now down at the collector down there where the two bolts are, make sure you loosen that flange and then take it off the collector, and then you can take the last bolt that's holding the manifold on, and she should come off. There she is. Now before you put your new exhaust manifold in place, make sure the cylinder head is all clean and you have your new gasket. And then put your new manifold in place. Okay, we got the exhaust manifold all buttoned up with the 3 bolts there and the flange bolts down there. They're all tight. And the intake manifold is all clean, scraped, and I've taken the brake cleaner and cleaned that surface so it's all ready to go. Put our intake manifold in position, and there are 2 dowel pins on the cylinder head, and just line those up and it will, the intake manifold will lay flat on the cylinder head, just like so, and you can start one of the bolts. Okay, that will hold it in place. Now we can get out the rest of the bolts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. And we need to put those in now. Now the bottom bolt you can't see, so what I would recommend is to take a mirror like this and to find where they go in with the mirror. Okay, now we're going to put the fuel line back onto the fuel rail. I've got a little cap right here that I put on there, and it just snaps right in place. Now, to take that off, when you go to disassemble it, you'll need a little tool like this. And it will go right on here like this, and it presses in the gator spring, and that releases it. So you'll need one of these tools. Next we need to put the connections back on to the fuel injectors, and what I've got here is I've labeled every single one of them with numbers. You want to do that before you disassemble them, so you get them in the correct way, and they just snap in place. So we need to do that. Now there is a bracket right down here that went on the intake manifold that supported this fuel line. And we need to get that back in place. There are 2 bolts that secure it to the intake manifold. Okay, tighten those. Next we need to put this bracket back into position that holds the throttle cables. There are 3 10mm. Okay, once we get that bracket buttoned down, we can put our cables back on the throttle body. This one right here is a little ball and socket, snaps in place, and then this one right here, you have to pull this back, slide it, and push it towards the middle of the engine. And this is the same way, this one right here. And there they are, all buttoned up. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to put the bracket for the power steering pump back into position. One right here. And then you got this one right down here. It's in this little recess. Those are all 14mm. Yeah. We need to tighten those up now. Now the power steering pump is tied to the bracket that holds the computer right here out of the way, so we need to remove that right now. Okay, we got the pump all loose, so we can put the belt back into position. Now there is an adjuster right underneath here. I believe it's a 13mm, and you want to turn that out and tighten up the belt, and then tighten up all the other bolts that are loose. Okay, now we can put the airbox back in place. There are 3 studs here on the bottom that go through the fender here. And put that in place. Put this little piece on. And there we go. And then we'll put the nuts underneath there and tighten that up. Okay, now we can put the air cleaning element back in, and then the top of the airbox, and position it on the throttle body, and tighten the clamp. And that's it. You've just replaced your exhaust manifold on your Jeep Grand Cherokee.